While most college seniors were focused on parties and finals, I was focused on buying my first rental property. After my first summer making nearly 6 figures, I went into senior year and I knew I wanted to buy my first rental property, house hack it, rent out the rooms, and start my real estate journey. But I ran into 3 major problems. How do I get approved for a loan with only 1099 income and no credit history? How do I find the right deal? And how do I actually turn this into a successful rental property? The first problem that most people have when they're going to buy a property is the capital. But I'd already made $100,000 in the summer selling alarm systems. If you guys want to see that full story, I have a video right here. My problem was getting qualified for buying a house when I have no credit history and no W-2 income other than 4 months of commission selling alarms. When you go to get a loan, they don't care about the capital that you have in the bank so much. It's seeing consistent paychecks and having good, consistent credit history for multiple years. So how do you get past this? You can look into non-qualified mortgage lenders, but typically they're going to have higher interest rates or shorter terms. FHA financing can be a little bit more forgiving, but again, they want to see some sort of credit history or work history. So the third option, what I did was get a cosigner that could use their credit and work history for me without having to bring any of the capital. Looking back, I wish I knew how to do creative finance. It's how we buy every property now and how we've scaled up to many more properties without any traditional banks, but I'll make another video just for that. I was lucky enough to have a family member that was willing to do this because I brought them the deal, it made sense, and he trusted me. If you can't get a family or a friend, you can find someone in a real estate network and actually cut them in on the deal with maybe cash flow or even equity on the back end. If you want to see how to run the numbers on what makes a good deal, I talk about this on my Instagram all the time. You can go follow it right here. So now that I had a family member that was willing to co-sign with me, get a pre-approval letter saying that I can afford to buy this property and get approval for financing, I needed to go to step number 2, which was finding the right deal. Other than scrolling on Zillow, I had no idea how to make offers, find a good deal, or really do anything to put a property under contract. So I went on a Bigger Pockets website and found a real estate investor-friendly agent that could find me a deal and help me put offers in. I told him the exact criteria of what I was looking for. A house between $200,000 to $225,000, something that I could buy, rent out the rooms, house hack, and start the real estate investing journey. But there was one problem. The market was hot. This was early 2022 and houses were leaving the market after one day being on the market. Once he had my criteria nailed down, all those houses would come into my email. I would tell him which one I was interested in, and within the same day, we would shoot out an offer to that realtor. But one after another, I would get outbid and someone else would get a higher offer that they would take above the asking price. I was constantly sitting on Zillow, checking my email through the houses he sent over, and I saw one house that had been sitting on the market for over 2 weeks now. It was listed at $195,000, but it was a 2-bed, 2-bath. Priced too high given that it wasn't 3 bedrooms. But it had an incredible backyard, deck, and a huge shed that was added into the backyard. The house was already renovated and it didn't need much work. And it was right here in my college town in Norman, Oklahoma. I gave it to my realtor. He agreed that it was priced too high. I said, why don't we just send in a lowball offer? So we sent him an offer at $180,000. A day later, they countered at $188,000. I was super excited and we took that offer. I already had my pre-approval letter lined up, so we sent that over to the realtor. They accepted the offer and we started our option period. Now that everything was getting real, there was the next problem. I had 7 days of an inspection period to figure out if I was going to move forward with this property, and then 30 days to close and really figure out what I was going to do with it. After inspections, we decided to move forward and everything closed about 30 days later. I was set to go live in this property, rent out the other rooms, and really stay there and recruit and build a sales team for the upcoming year. But within a few months, something big changed. Our entire sales team switched over to solar. We moved to Dallas. I was no longer going to be living in the house. So now I had to figure out what I wanted to do with this house. When looking at the long-term rental comps, meaning what it could rent for if I just put someone in the house and rented it on a 12-month lease, it was $1,500 to $1,600 a month. My mortgage payment was $1,100 a month. So if I did a normal tenant lease, I would make about $300 to $400 every single month. But there was something much better for this property. It was just north of Main Street at a beautiful campus where people come to watch football and pay a lot of money to be there. If I furnished this house, turned it into a short-term rental, I could generate a lot more income for short-term stays. I networked with other Airbnb hosts in the area and figured out what revenue they were bringing in every single month. It was anywhere between $2,500 and $4,500 every single month. But I needed to furnish the property, which required more capital. When purchasing the house, my down payment and closing costs was $16,000. This is 5% of $188,000 with closing costs and fees added on top. After furnishing costs, I spent $12,000 to get everything set up and do some minor renovations to convert a little laundry room into a 3rd bedroom. You might think as a new investor that you can just throw a house up on Airbnb and you'll start seeing all the money come in, but there's a lot more to it. I needed to make sure this property looked good, it was furnished well, it had all the right systems in place with electronic door locks, the keys, the property management, the cleaning, and everything else to get it properly marketed so that people would actually come stay. I copied all the systems from other Airbnb hosts and went on Facebook to find good cleaners in the area that could really manage and run the property. Finally, we had it completely operational, had it up on Airbnb and VRBO ready to go. So the question is, how does this actually perform and do I still have this property today? Most months, this generates about $2,500 to $2,800 a month in revenue. But during peak football season and graduation, I get $1,500 to $2,000 every every single night for game day with a 2-night minimum. This leads football season to bring in nearly $5,000 in revenue every single month. With my underlying mortgage plus utilities, trash, water, electrical, and management, I pay about $1,500 to $1,600 a month. I still own this property today, and I often go every single year for football or other events at the university. Not only did it get me into real estate, but it also gave me the power of realizing how to use leverage, other people's money, and create cash flow. This was just the start of what our real estate business looks like today. We run a full-time wholesale operation where we find properties that are distressed and sell it to investors just like us. And we have 14 rental properties, but I didn't have to use traditional financing, banks, or any mortgage loans. So if you want to see how you can scale a portfolio without having to use traditional financing, watch this next video and watch how we did it.